Well, Alex, I'm so excited for us to chat today. I know we've connected, different times over the years, as you're one of our pre-postnatal exercise specialists through my Knocked Up Fitness instructor trainer course. But before we get into everything today, I would love for you to share with everyone a little bit more about you and your story, so everyone knows like that's what led you to do what you do today.
Yes, sounds good. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and share some stuff with you guys. So, my story. So I was diagnosed with endometriosis at 18. Um, and prior to that, high school, I got my period late and it was horrific. Every month it was like debilitating cramps, pain, like abdominal pain. I actually had a lot of GI issues, constipation, and I had just told a friend about this because it came back to me full force. I was like, "Oh my god, I remember this," and it was like just intense pain, literally every time I went to go take a poop. And I thought that was normal, like for a long time. And so endometriosis and like GI issues, bowel issues, they go hand in hand for a lot of people. Maybe not for many, but for a lot, it does. And for me, it did. And so I finally got diagnosed at 18. They ended up my fertility doctor. It was a fertility specialist. Went in and did a laparoscopy, lasered everything off because that's truly the real diagnosis is going in and seeing what's going on and where your endometrial tissue lining is growing. So he lasered it all off and was like, "Yeah, the chances of you conceiving are slim to none." And I was like, "Well, I'm 18. That's not anywhere near my, any what I want to do right now." And I didn't think much of it. And I went on a drug called Lupron, and it put my body into menopause. And so I experienced hot flashes, night sweats, and it just these intense hot flashes. And I'm already like pale. I get red when I work out anyway. And so it was like, it was kind of humiliating. And it made me really self-conscious. Long story short, ended up getting off of it. My husband at the time was like, "Let's try to have a baby." And I was like, "Well, it's not going to happen anyway. So sure, let's have at it." And sure enough, we got pregnant. And I knew like really, really early. And she was like the miracle baby. And 3 babies later, here I am. Yeah, so that's part of that story, and why I'm so fascinated by our periods and our menstruation and ovulation, and why it's so important, and how we can optimize our health and our life by tapping into that.
No, I love that. And, your story is, I think, quite common, honestly,
Hmm.
like with whether it's endometriosis or we've been talking a lot about PCOS and,
Yep.
or just women having just horrible cycles. Like every woman I talk to, it seems like, oh my gosh, I have these really heavy, clotty, horrible periods. And, it's like, I rarely have a conversation with a woman who's like, oh my God, yeah, my period comes and it goes and I feel freaking amazing. I
Yeah,
will tell
yeah,
you that is possible because I
it
have
is.
worked on myself
Yes.
too.
Yep.
You and I
Yep.
both know
It
because I've
is.
had definitely my own share of, hormonal issues. I was told the same thing. I think I was 14 when they told me
Yeah.
that we're
Oh
like,
my
you're going to have
God.
a hard time having, and I was like, at 14, who's even thinking about that? But they're checking your
Yeah.
hormones and
Yeah.
all this stuff and whatever. Anyway, yeah. So I totally resonate with you and feel a lot like my babies are like, I feel sometimes like they're just totally meant to be.
Yeah. It
And
is.
I
Yeah.
and I
It's
know like
crazy.
you and I are so blessed because I know there are a lot of women out there that, have really struggled and
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
can't have babies. So I,
Yeah.
I feel for them. But I also think it's really important that we talk about this so that there is a lot, and I know not every woman can naturally, sometimes
Yes.
there are
Yep.
medical interventions that
Yep.
need to take place in order to, improve fertility or IVF and all of that, which is amazing that we have that technology,
Yeah. I
right?
agree. I agree.
But I also know that there are a lot of things that women can do to help increase and improve their fertility. And
Yeah.
even if you're past having babies, right, ladies, this isn't just about fertility, but your fertility and your your periods, I should say more than that, is really the marker of our health, which is
It
why I
is.
love this conversation. And I feel
Yeah.
like it's coming up more and more. And it's like, let's talk about our periods, ladies,
Yeah.
because I feel like we just like kind of brush it under the rug and like, oh, this sucks. And like, but knowing that there's something that you can do about it. And I think too, for anyone who has daughters, I have a
Yeah.
teenage daughter, right? And so I'm having these open conversations with her, which I think is so empowering that we can have that, we can start them younger now and empower them.
Yes.
Like if she's starting to have cramps, if things are starting to show up at a young age, like
Yes.
know that there's stuff that you can do about it. Anyway, sorry, I went on a little
Yeah.
rant there, but I get
No.
really passionate about this because I've
Yes.
personally gone through some of my own stuff. So
Yeah. I fully agree. And I have always said, like, hormonal issues, hormonal imbalances don't just happen in your 30s. It is something that happens like as a teenager that gets increasingly worse. So it's like, well, how can we help our future generation? How can we help 13-year-old daughters like yours? And it's like, well, starting them young, educating them now and getting on top of it. Why do you have cramps right now? What foods can you be eating to help help those cramps? What about bloating? What about acne? All of it. Like, they don't, it just, infertility just, I mean, there are some cases where yes, but most of the time it doesn't just happen like when you're in your 30s. And birth control sadly has a lot to do with that, because a lot of 15-year-olds go on birth control and then they're on it for like 15 years until they're in their 30s and then they expect to get pregnant. And it's like, well, your body needs to adjust post birth control. I'll go on rants too. So
no, you're totally fine. I love it. Okay, you were starting to talk about nutrition and our periods, and you mentioned bloating and cramping and acne.
hmm
Let's start there. Let's talk about
okay.
that, right? When we're thinking
Yeah.
about our cycles, right? And we go through a 28-ish day cycle. So,
hmm
what
Yeah.
are the important, obviously we know the basics nutrition, but
hmm
specific things related to where we're at in our cycle. That's what I'd love to have you talk
So,
about.
okay. So first I'll start with our what our body needs changes throughout the month through that 28-day cycle. So like the first half of your cycle from your, like, let's say end of your bleed till ovulatory, your body needs, even though technically it's like your bleed is the first half of your cycle if we're looking at it like that, but for like follicular and ovulatory phases, your body needs fewer, like less food. Your metabolism is slower, so you don't need to eat as much, so you can get away with eating lighter meals, salads, smoothies. And then once ovulation happens, your body is actually burning more calories. So your metabolism speeds up and you need more fuel. And I think, like, as a society, we haven't yet hit that as women. Like, I think we are so conditioned to thinking that we should be eating the same plate of food all month long. And it's like, well, no wonder you're hungry, you're gorging in your luteal phase right before your period comes and you're like, I got to eat everything in the pantry right now. And then, your mood crashes, and you get depressed and you're tired and bloated and all of these things. And it's, if we learn to, eat with our cycle and honor that and fuel our body by eating more food in that second half of our cycle, then we can set ourselves up for, the late luteal phase, the menstrual phase, and back to the follicular phase. So our caloric needs change throughout the month for sure.
So when you're talking about like eating more, I mean, obviously in order to increase our calories more easily, right? Like up your fat, I would say
Yep.
is number one. Do you agree with
Yep.
that? Yeah.
Yes, and proteins and
Mhm.
complex carbohydrates for sure. All of them, and fiber. All of it. I would increase all of it.
So don't eat like a mouse, ladies. And
Yes.
I think this is where, and I talk about this all the time, right? Is listening to your body. And I think so
Mhm.
many times we think, oh my gosh, I'm hungry. Like, what's wrong with me? Why am I hungry? If I eat more, I'm going to gain weight. But
Yeah.
it's actually the opposite. If you're
Yep.
truly listening to your body, eating healthy, nourishing, whole foods, not
Yep.
processed, not
Yep.
fast food, things like that, and not a lot of sugar, right? We got to really, the sugar, I think, is a
Yeah.
big, a
It
big
is.
piece of adding to imbalances as our
Yeah.
cycles, acne, I mean,
Yeah.
gosh,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
and all of
Acne.
that.
Yeah. 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 I agree. I fully agree. Um, Acne, speaking of acne, so like some of these, and this is where like I'm a big proponent of like testing, getting those hormone levels checked, testing, because when you're just going off of your symptoms, right, you're guessing. And when you test, so like acne, it's like that's like a huge one for excess estrogen. Um, and it's like, okay, well, if you test, then and so how do you get all of that recirculating estrogen out of your body, and then you can have like a really good protocol for doing that. Cilantro is a really good one for estrogen, or for acne. What else?
Broccoli sprout. I love
Yes.
broccoli sprouts. I know we talked about this before.
Yes.
I love broccoli sprouts for helping because it's the natural form of like, we talk about DEM a lot, right?
Yep.
That comes up
Yep.
and
Yep.
which is fine. I think that can be great to take that. I have learned and found that combinations of
Yes.
supplements as well as obviously getting as much from the whole food. So I love
Yes.
cilantro is great for detoxing as well too. It's also
Yeah.
really good. Cilantro is a really good detoxification for also heavy metals. I do know that. So I think from
Yes.
just a
Yes.
detoxification
Yes.
perspective, I know cilantro is really good for that. Broccoli
Yeah.
sprouts are
Yeah.
some key ones. Just
All
add
the
them,
cruciferous
like, yeah.
vegetables, all of them. Yeah, carrots included, are
But
really
cook
good.
them because I think
Cook
this is,
them
we talk
always.
about bloating, right?
Yeah.
Adding, take some extra enzymes, ladies, right? Because if you're eating broccoli and then you just are left feeling super bloated, right? That doesn't make you feel good either.
Yeah.
Lightly, roast them or, bake them a little bit. And I find though people can do broccoli sprouts and that doesn't bloat them like
Mhm.
actual
Mhm.
broccoli does,
Broccoli. Yeah.
which is great. But yeah, add
Yeah.
some enzymes. I think that especially as we age, our stomach enzymes can decrease. I love bitters. We talk about bitters a lot. I don't
Yep.
know if you have any others that you recommend.
Let's see. Uh, Cilantro. What else? What else do I do? I recommend broccoli, all the cruciferous vegetables, and I always say cook them. Just because it's excess estrogen, and so it's like number one thing to get um to help push the estrogen down the proper pathway is those cruciferous vegetables. And sugar, decrease your sugar, absolutely, possibly gluten, and look at your dairy intake as well. Some people are more sensitive than others, but I would say in general, yes, get rid of get rid of the gluten and dairy. Um, those are my top ones that I like go tos for like acne protocols. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would second that. And if it doesn't get better, you need to look at the guts in your gut.
Yeah.
What's going on in your gut? And I love it you're mentioning, testing, not don't guessing. And I wholeheartedly back that up and say the same thing because we can spend so much time and so much money on guessing and taking this supplement and that supplement and trying to figure it out where at the end of the day, like, yeah, maybe you are recirculating estrogen, but maybe you've also got overgrowth of bad bacteria or you've got
Yeah.
parasites or you've got candida. And that's
Yeah.
one thing I know. If you have nasty sugar cravings, ladies, like your candida is probably overgrown.
Uh,
Like we all have a little candida, right? It's
yeah.
like just normal with good bacteria, right? But it's
Yep.
keeping it in
Yep.
balance. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but because I know sometimes women really get hard on themselves when it's like they can't get rid of the sugar cravings.
Yes. Hmm, um, um, I agree. And it is hard. It is one of those things where it becomes habitual. And it's habit, right? So you get in this routine of like, oh, where are the Oreos? Where's the chocolate? Let's say 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's like you need that pick me up. Um, and I think once you break that cycle, once you break that habit and like detox that sugar out of your system, you're going to no longer have any cravings. Also, if you're eating enough throughout the day during those meals, because I think most women hit that sugar craving 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe after dinner, they're like, you know what, I ate really well today, I'm gonna stuff my face with Oreos, right? Like, and it's like a treat. um but it's habitual, and it's the sugar. It's so addicting. It is the most addictive substance, in my opinion. And once you can break those habits, and eating more throughout the day, you won't even crave the sugar anymore. Um,
I'm
yeah.
glad you said that. I think that's a key piece is eating more at your meals. I know for me, if I catch myself snacking, I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't actually sit down and
Eat.
eat
Yeah.
enough food. I was like eating
Yeah.
this and eating that, like, cause I just didn't make myself take the time because yeah, ladies, I'm human and I am
Yeah.
definitely,
Yeah.
I have limited time to work and get things done too. And,
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. As we were getting back into school routine, I'm like, man, that first week of school, I sucked. I was
Yeah.
like snacking all the time. And I was like,
Yeah.
gosh darn it, you didn't even take 10 minutes to sit down and let yourself actually eat lunch. Instead, you were
Yeah.
grabbing, it wasn't like bad food, but it was like, a yogurt and
Snacky.
like a smoothie. And it was like stuff that wasn't really filling me up. And I know
Yeah.
myself, and maybe I don't know where I would have been in my cycle. So I think it's really awesome to just slow down and start to bring awareness. And, I reflected on that week and I was like, yeah, that was really bad. That was one of the
Yeah.
worst food. Not that I eat bad food, but my
Yeah.
timing was really off
Yeah.
and I felt it. And I think that's
Yeah.
huge for, I wasn't craving sugar because I've got myself off of that, but I
Yeah.
was like just hungry. And then you just
Yeah.
start eating. And the next thing you know,
Yeah.
you're like, gosh dang, like I kind of feel like crap because I just was like eating all day long. And we talk a lot about, right, like letting your gut get that break between your meals.
Yeah.
3 meals
Oh
a
my God. Yeah.
day, you
Yeah.
gotta because that also helps with detoxification of
Yes.
estrogen.
Yes. 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 I'm a big proponent on that intermittent fasting, but only at a specific time and not during the day. Huge. I never recommend during the day. I'm like, those 3 meals, yes, and those are breaks in between those 3 meals. But you'll find intermittent fasting, and it's like all day. People will go all day and not eat anything. They'll a whole day.
Oh, you mean like
And
they're waiting too late to eat, not eating
yeah,
like a breakfast and stuff like
yeah,
that.
and some people can get away with that. I like some people that works for, but I find that like if you have just something in the morning to help stabilize those blood sugar levels, it will help like cruise you through the rest of the day so that you can make the right choices till lunch, till dinner, and then have that intermittent fasting. Stop eating, stop snacking after dinner. Don't snack. Have your dinner 2 to 3 hours before bedtime, and that is your intermittent fasting until morning.
Oh yeah, I had a great conversation with Kara the other day talking about blood sugar and glucose because I wore like a monitor for 2 weeks and it was very
Oh,
interesting. And I had it on that week of school started. It was like, it was crazy, but it was really interesting. And I think that this is where probably what you're saying with women, again, everyone's bodies are different. I work with some of my
Mhm.
clients where they're like, I feel great going to 11:30. I'm like, great. Just make sure you're eating enough at that
Yeah.
11:30. I have others that are like, I go till 9 or even 8 o'clock. And it's like, that's fine. And
Yeah.
I fluctuate, usually I eat by 10. This morning I ate, it was a little earlier because I just was like, I just felt like, I was like, I need to make myself eat. And I sometimes experiment too. And I think ladies, you have to
Yes.
experiment, right? So
You
some
do.
mornings you're like, maybe some days you let yourself go till 10 or even noon. But then other days, if you're feeling hungry, like try eating at 8 o'clock and
Yeah.
just see how you feel. And you might notice like it changes. Or I notice that for myself, right?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
I'm getting close to my cycle starting, I'm like, I don't even try to go till 10 o'clock. Like, nope, I
Yeah.
literally have to like make myself eat
Yeah.
sometimes a little earlier. I know.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting when we really start to dive in and just listen to our body instead of feeling like we have to do this cookie cutter way because
Yeah.
so and so's doing it or this is the specific diet or whatever. And if you find something that works for you, that's great. That's great. But I really think that our body, I believe, and I know you do
Yeah.
too, our body's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
communicating with us and telling us.
Yes.
So we just have to learn to listen and,
And respond. Listen and respond is huge. And adapt and especially as we're like what works for you when you're 20 may not work for you when you're in your 40s. Like, let's get real. Like that, it may not work. Same thing with exercise. It may not work.
So speaking of exercise, let's go there. Let's talk about that
Okay.
with our cycles, and how women can improve the effectiveness of their workouts when they're tracking their cycles. And ladies, starting today, if you're not tracking your cycles, I know I've said this on many other episodes, please, please, please start tracking them. There are free apps out there. It's amazing. Tracking them can just give you so much insight, especially if you have like these days or moments where you're feeling like a crazy person. Literally pause and look at your app and be like, oh, make a note. I feel like a
Yeah.
crazy person
Yeah.
today, and my
Yeah.
period's starting in the next couple of days. And like, if we're
Yeah.
getting that PMS, like there's things we can do about it. But anyway.
There are. And before I even dive into the fitness, I want to say, so like the apps are great. They're so easy to track, right? But I love teaching about biomarkers. Like, what is your body literally saying? Because the app is going off of an algorithm based on previous cycles. It does not know when you are actually ovulating this month, right here and right now. Only you can be able to look at your biomarkers and see what your body is telling you. So I do want to say that.
No, I think that's great. I will tell you the one I use. It's called Life, and it's like
Mhm.
it's got a pink heart. So you can put in your ovulation. If you can
Okay.
feel when you ovulate, which I typically
Okay.
can. And I feel like a lot of women after you've had babies can feel it. I hear
Yeah.
from a lot of
Yeah.
women like you
Yeah.
couldn't feel it necessarily before, or just maybe as we're getting older.
Yeah.
So if you can, definitely get an app where you can mark your ovulation, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. But it
Yeah.
is really interesting because I've tracked it for long enough that I would say it's within 24 hours always
Of when
of
you
when
can
I'm
feel it.
ovulating. Yes. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
So yeah, so
Okay.
I track it and you can put it in there. So if it's really off, like you can change
Okay.
it.
Okay.
So
Good.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
Good.
that I know
Good.
that
Good.
can
Good.
be, I know if you've got irregular cycles, that could be challenging. So I don't disagree with you at all. I think definitely keeping track of it, like not in an app too, just in case like it
Yes.
disappears on you
Yeah.
and like it updates and all your past stuff. You're like, wait, what
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah, I'm huge on I'm like old school. I'm like paper. I'm like writing it down. I'm like da, 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 da. Yeah, yeah, all the way. And what your cervical mucus is like, all of it. It can in the app, can you write down what your cervical mucus is? Is there like a place?
Not in that one, but
Okay.
I know there's the flow one. I'm gonna look
Okay.
here really quick that you can make notes.
Okay.
I use two just from an
Okay.
experimental perspective to
Yeah.
see how they are. And I kind of think it's good because one of them is more accurate as far as like when my cycle actually starts.
Okay.
But the other one, I can make notes in it. But
Okay.
again, that's the risk you take, ladies, is in apps, if like stuff updates and you lose all your data, I
Yeah.
prefer to just write it down in a little journal or something. I agree
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean I think you gotta find what works for you, right? At the end of the
You do.
day.
You
Like
do. You
so
do. Absolutely. I fully agree. Fully agree. And they're great. I mean, apps are so easy. You got your phone, you're just clicking it in, writing your stuff in. Okay, so fitness. So because of our fluctuating hormones throughout the month, right, our fitness needs change. Like how we should be honoring our body, it changes. So we should not be doing the same exact workout. And I'm going to throw this out there because this is what I see a lot. We should not be doing the same cardio workout day in and day out. I have lots of runners, lots of cardio people, the elliptical, and they do it all month long. And then they come and they're like, I am not losing weight. I am tired. I am frustrated. And here's why. It's because your hormones change throughout the course of the month, and you can do specific exercises to honor that, to optimize your fitness, to optimize those results. So the first half of your cycle is really good for cardio. So I'll back it up, because technically the first half of the cycle, your menstruation is included in that. It's day one, right? So menstruation, rest. During your bleed, if you are bleeding, rest, take that time, walk, do gentle yoga, restorative yoga, something that is not intense at all, and really honor your body, because it is going through an intense process of shedding that uterine lining, and your body doesn't want to do a HIIT workout. Your brain might, but your body does not. Coming out of your bleed, as your hormones start rising, and your estrogen is rising, it's a really good time to do some fun cardio, some dance, Zumba, whatever you're into that's like fun and light. And as you enter your ovulatory phase, that is the time to do an intense workout, high intensity interval training, a long intense run, any type of kickboxing, combat classes, all of it. Um, After ovulation happens, you're in your luteal phase, and a luteal phase length of between 9 and 18 days is considered normal. So generally, let's just like round that off and say 2 weeks, and they get divided into two. So the first half is if you still have energy, you can continue those high intensity classes for a little bit. I would add in strength training in there, resistance training. And as you enter that second week of your luteal phase, I would switch gears and do flexibility training, yoga, start really slowing it down. And then you enter your menstruation. And again, that's a time for rest. And by following that, you're honoring your natural hormonal shifts throughout the cycle so that you can optimize your fitness, not only your fitness and those results that you want, but your brain and how you feel mentally, right? Like, oh man, I feel really good. And then it's like, then you want to go and do it again and do something else. And yeah. All right.
No, I love it. I think it's so important to really just, again, honoring our body and where we're at. And I think sometimes too, when we're trying to push ourselves, because mentally it's that go hard or go home mentality. And I talk about this
Hmm.
all the time in core
Yeah.
rehab, as you know.
Yeah.
And I always got to talk women down. Like, I know you want to get that high, like that hit high intensity stuff. And I have no problem with that when it's the time for your body, whether we're
Yeah.
still working on rehabilitating and we're not there yet, or again, where you're at in your cycle. Because I just end up working with so many women, as you do, who are so depleted.
Yeah.
I've
So
been very
depleted.
depleted, and it's
Yes.
not fun. And it's like we've been ingrained in our brain since we were young athletes,
Yeah.
doing whatever. Even if you're not like a pro athlete, you don't have to be a pro athlete to like consider yourself athletic, right?
Yeah. Oh,
And
absolutely
want
not.
to
Yeah.
do that workout. But if we are overdoing it, that could actually be contributing to not so good periods because
Yeah.
of our cortisol. And we talk a lot about, people talk a lot about high cortisol. We don't talk enough about low cortisol. And I don't know if
Oh,
there's
yeah.
anything you want to talk about with low cortisol. If you do, go for it.
I will share a personal story. I was in adrenal fatigue. I Because obviously I test hormones, so I did one on myself. I did one, and this was all very recently. I consider myself an endurance athlete. I teach cycle, I run, I bike outside, um, and prior to the current world situation, I was teaching all the time. Go, 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 right? Like I mean, it's sadly it is how we are conditioned. I fully agree. And I got my hormone test back, and it said you're in adrenal fatigue, and none of my sex hormones were where they should be. My cortisol was it was below where it should have been for my age. It didn't even peak in the morning and drop off in the afternoon. There was nothing. And the really weird thing was I didn't need any coffee, right, to wake up. I didn't need any sugar in the afternoon, like not, and I think that's something to really look at, because there's women in the world, and I think we're so conditioned to just go, 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 and we don't even realize that we are depleted, and that we do need more self love, and that we do need to back off of our workouts, our intense workouts. And it was extremely eye opening to me. So I did. I backed off, and I knew exactly I knew what put me there. Right? It was my workouts, my intense workouts. So I dropped off. Luckily, the current situation, gyms were closed, and I did, and I really like put my protocol into action with myself, and retested recently, and I'm like, woohoo! Everything is where it should be. I'm so excited, and my cortisol peaks in the morning and drops off in the afternoon, and I cannot stress enough that sometimes you're in your world where you think that's normal, and
Yeah.
it's not. And that's where I go back to, like, get tested, ladies. Like, get tested, because I thought I was okay. I thought I was good, and I wasn't. And it's like, well, I think everyone should be tested. Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, I've had times of really low cortisol as well. And it's not, ladies, too, that your adrenals just aren't working like they're supposed to. It's because of a stress load on the body. Like it goes back to stress. It goes back to the HPA, axis. And so it really comes back to stress. So there is a stressor in your life, whether it's your workouts, whether it's something else.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's why, like, stress comes up so much. Or again, you could have a bacterial overload in your gut, and that's a stressor to you,
Mhm.
right? There's so many different things we always, and it may be a combination of them. But I love hearing that you tested and you were able to turn things around in what sounds like a pretty short period of time. But
Yeah.
it takes us, and this is why, like in core rehab, right? It's very gentle, very slow, very,
Yes. Yes.
very mindful, right? And it's
Yes.
amazing to me. I love it because it's not a weight loss program, but it is amazing when women are like, oh my gosh, I lost some weight and I like all these things.
Yes.
And it's like, yes, because you actually let yourself slow down. You're
Yeah.
decreasing your stress. It's like a byproduct of it.
Yeah, it
And
is. Yeah.
it's so incredible. We discount the power of gentle movement, which is where
Yeah.
I've become so passionate about it, as I know you have
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And time and time, like I say Pilates saved me because I used to do high intensity stuff, but that's just not for my body, right? I'll do
Yeah.
high intensity stuff periodically, but it's really short. Like, I got on my spin bike and I've been doing like 15 or 20 minutes, but I'm not someone to go for a long, long, long run. It just does not work for my body. And I know
Yeah.
that. And so there's no
Yeah.
fighting it, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I
Yeah.
surrender. I'm
Why?
going to do
Yeah.
what works, what makes me feel good, what makes me feel
Yeah.
energized. And I know you worked with women too that, in this, they just want to go, 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 go in life.
Yeah.
And then they're adding their workouts on because we think it's a stress release when
Yeah.
ultimately it is initially because you get that adrenaline kick, but it's actually
Yeah.
underlying adding a stress.
Yeah.
And I mean, I cannot tell you how many women over my 20 years, right, that I've had been like, no, you actually need to do less. And they look at
Yeah.
me like I'm a crazy person. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Yeah.
You have to
You do.
trust me
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you have to back off. And when you
Yeah.
actually back off and,
Yeah.
you're still moving, like, again, this is like
Yeah.
the power of walking. I think we discount
Yes. Power
the
of
power
walking.
of
Yep.
walking. I love walking. I think some people are
Yeah.
like, do you like walk like a lot? I'm like,
Yeah.
I walk like every day. Like
Yeah. Every
it's
day.
also my
Yeah.
stress release too, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
out in nature,
Yep.
but I just think, yeah, we've been so conditioned and I see it like, having a teenager and seeing the extreme of the sports
Yeah.
at such a
Yeah.
young age even. And it's just like, man, these girls are starting out at like they're overtraining when
Yeah.
they're in their teen years. And I'm just like, oh
No
gosh,
wonder. No wonder.
they need to be hearing this then. Not that it would like resonate with them, but moms
Yeah.
who have
Yeah.
daughters, even they're not teenagers yet, like there's things that we can do to, I guess, really help teach them at a younger age, and they're not learning from their coaches and they're not
Yeah.
learning in their athletic programs to really listen to their body. They're just like, no, it's like it's all about, it's a mental game and all you got to do is you got to push through and
Yeah.
you keep going and you're going to
Yeah.
get better and you're going to get stronger. I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah.
there's a little bit to that, yes, because it is mental.
Mhm.
But if we're running and we're in pain and we've got all this stuff going on and we're left feeling depleted and
Oh.
it's just like, sorry,
Yeah.
I'll
No.
stop my rant,
I
but
agree. I agree. Well, and then you're running and running and running, and then you go home and you're not feeding yourself, and it's like, well, if you're in adrenal fatigue, let's say, no wonder how you got there. Like, yeah, it's all about honoring your body in every aspect that you possibly can, and nutrition and fitness are both a key pieces to that.
it's a balance of all of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fine balance.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned cervical mucus, and I know every woman's like, what is Alex talking about?
Cervical mucus. It's my favorite topic. Yes. Oh my gosh. So it changes throughout the month. And this is going to look different for like a 20-year-old cervical mucus is not going to be the same as a 40 or 50-year-old cervical mucus. I would say a 40 or 50-year-old cervical mucus is going to be decreasing, and you may see one day of cervical mucus. But if you're in your 20s and 30s, it's going to be changing throughout the month because of estrogen and progesterone and how both of those hormones affect the cervical crypts within your vaginal canal.
So no, I'm assuming it's a good thing when we're seeing cervical mucus, but there's
Yes.
probably a balance with it too. So, and do
Yes.
we see more of it in like a certain, because you're talking about like estrogen and progesterone. And so are we seeing it more when progesterone is peaking? Because I know that's like the feel good hormone.
Yes, the relaxing hormone. So you will, as estrogen increases rapidly, right, towards ovulation, you will really see an increase in your cervical mucus. Which is a good thing, right? So contrary to like menstruation being the main event of the cycle, even though it's like so bloody and like dramatic and oh my God, right? Ovulation is the major event, the key, the bride of the party, of the cycle. Um, and so leading up to ovulation, you want to see clear, stretchy, fluid, abundant, thin cervical mucus. And that is that high estrogenic type mucus. And you want to see it stretch in between your fingers. I want to know it all. Like with my clients, I want to know it all. I want to know how much it stretches. Is it clear or is it cloudy? Because there, you're always going to have a mix of estrogen and progesterone in that cervical mucus, but one of those hormones, estrogen or progesterone, will be dominant. And so if estrogen is that dominant hormone, which it should be during ovulation, it will be clear. If progesterone is mixed in, it might look a little cloudy. And so like for fertility purposes and conception, right, we want to see that clear, stretchy, thin, abundant, fluid cervical mucus. After ovulation is over, there will be an abrupt change. You won't be seeing that anymore. And this is like when you wipe, I'm only talking about external observations only, not going up in your vaginal canal, because obviously it's like your mouth, kind of always moist. So when you're wiping with toilet paper or observing your underwear, anyway, after ovulation happens, there will be an abrupt change from that clear, stretchy fluid mucus to possibly dryness or possibly less and more of like a moist sensation. Progesterone has a different effect. It has like it's more thick in nature, and you may not even see it because what happens is it basically makes a plug within your like your vaginal canal by your cervix, and so sometimes like a scant amount may come out and it might look thick, creamy, dense, but it'll be a little amount. Most of the time it will be dry.
So it's a good thing. It's showing that like we're healthy if we're having kind of an average amount of,
Yes.
cervical mucus. But is there a point at which women can have too much that like can indicate like a
Too
bad
much
thing? I don't
estrogen.
know. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too much estrogen, or just an inappropriate ratio between estrogen and progesterone. Absolutely. And again, this is where getting your hormones checked. Like, yes. And again, tracking that cervical mucus, your cervical mucus is a biomarker. And if you're not tracking that over time, you're not going to be able to see what's happening over time, right? Like if you're just going through the day and you're wiping yourself while after you pee and you're not paying attention to your underwear, you have no idea. And then the doctor or somebody asks you like, or you say to your doctor, I'm always wet, or, there's always something in my underwear. If you don't have a chart to look at, right, then it's not good. Because you want to be able to see that. You want to be able to see that over time and your patterns over time.
Okay. It's very interesting, right? So like, because I've never heard anyone talk about it but you, and I love it. I love that
Yeah.
you're
Oh,
bringing this awareness to women that like, no, it's actually a normal good thing
it
when
is.
you have cervical mucus happening and you're seeing even, because I think women get concerned, right? Because there's also like, oh, well, what if we have a yeast infection? Like, so can you explain the difference, right? Because they talk about with yeast infections, right? You're going to get
yes, possibly creamy, very itchy, and it looks different with everyone. I think a lot of times some people don't even realize that they have yeast infections. I would say it looks a little bit different for everyone. I would say itchy, redness are like top red flags. If you have any of that going on, absolutely go to your OB. if you are concerned with the amount of cervical mucus you are producing, absolutely call your OB. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Does that
know
answer it?
too and I was just curious because I feel like that would be a question that will get asked. And I do know as well too, ladies, if you have a tendency to have yeast infections, you probably have an overgrowth of candida because
Yeah.
that's a huge, huge, huge correlation. So you can do all the creams in the world, but if it keeps coming back, you have to go after the guts.
Yes.
And candida is one. Get rid of that sugar, ladies. Like
Yeah. That's
you
what I was
just
about to say.
you
Yeah.
have to get rid of the sugar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else about cervical mucus that you want everyone to know?
It changes. I can't, I
Okay.
mean, I cannot stress that enough. There, you have such like, a wide variety of listeners, um, from pre-babies to during babies to menopause. It will look extremely different. Someone in their 20s may see, 8, 10 days of cervical mucus going on throughout the cycle, and a woman in her 50s might see one,
Okay.
40s, 50 might see one. So it looks extremely different for depending on where you are in your reproductive continuum.
Okay, but it sounds like it could definitely be something important to track along with when we feel like we're
Absolutely.
ovulating or any other symptoms and things
Yes.
that we might be having. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
as far as like what are some, things that women can do to work to improve their periods besides what we've already talked about? Are there any additional things that you are really big on recommending besides, the testing, estrogen detoxification, obviously getting rid of the sugar, eating healthier?
Yep. All right. All right. So, and besides eating 3 meals a day, huge. That's huge. I'm going to like stress that. Eat, please eat. Sleep is a huge one. If you're staying up and that blue light, oh my God, good quality sleep is so important. So if you're staying up like super late and you're watching TV and you're cruising your phone or your iPad or whatever, number one, put on the blue light blocking glasses, and number two, cut it at least 30 minutes before bed. Is huge. Make sure you're getting good quality sleep, and that can look. I always recommend at least 7 hours. Some people can get away with 6, but I'm like, shoot for the star, like 7 to 9 to 10. Some people need more.
I
Good
think
quality
most
sleep.
women, I would second you in saying that I would feel like most women need 8 to 9 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
When
That's
we're
what it
really
is.
when we're really talking truly working on our health, the women that
Yeah,
I work with, when I'm working with her on her sleep, it's usually like, you need a little bit more sleep. So let's go to bed a
yeah,
little earlier. Let's sleep in a little bit
yeah,
more. Ask for help with the kiddos in the morning if you can. Of course, it's hard if
yeah,
you're in that nursing phase. Like I get it, right? So when you are out of that anyway.
yeah,
And even if you can during that, just to get more sleep. But I just think we get in that go, go, go. We do not get enough sleep. And it's
yeah,
like, then we kind of forget, like, oh, yeah, like sleep is important. We think we're go, go. We think we can do it on 6 hours. But I would say, women, especially when compared to men, need more sleep because of our cycles.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. And cutting the TV, because I think as moms we like, and women, maybe I don't even know, but as people, right? We at the end of the day comes and you're like, I just want to like zone out and not think about anything because the day was long and hard. And I think if we can learn to like cut the TV at least that's being like very I mean, really, real an hour before bed to dial your body down. Read a book, listen to music, light, gentle music, nothing that like amps you up. Um, yeah, sleep is super good. What else? Oh my gosh, I was just thinking of one. Um, oh, alcohol. Can we talk about it?
Yeah, please do.
How to improve your periods. How to improve your periods. Stop drinking alcohol. That's a huge one for messing up your hormones, and just putting stress on your body, that you don't need. Right? Again, like going back to that adrenal output, it will stress your entire body out. Your liver, everything. Your adrenals, they will be tired. overworked, and you don't want that. So how to improve your periods? Really decrease the alcohol intake. Absolutely.
And I know a lot of women fight me on this. This is a piece that some do really good, but there are those that are like, no, I need to have my glass of wine every night. And it's got resveratrol in it. It's good for you, ladies. I would say that the pros of wine do not outweigh the cons of wine.
No.
And if
Yeah.
you're gonna drink anyway, you need to get like dry farm wines. Get the old world wines that have less sugar, don't have the chemicals in them.
Yeah.
And honestly, as you get older, switching over to like hard alcohol, I know like that's not as enjoyable, but then at the same time, you're not getting that sugar, right? You're not, and really at the end of the day, you need to cut it out and you need to keep
Yeah.
it for special occasions. I know we're not
Yes,
saying don't
I
ever
agree.
drink, but it
Yes,
comes down to,
not at all.
it really cannot be a nightly thing. And,
No.
but it's just like, even if you have to start just like slowly tapering back, whatever it
Yeah.
is, but replace it with something else. I think sometimes it's
Yes.
just like I'm a huge fan of drinking chamomile tea at night. It's just like
Yeah.
having that before bed. If you're afraid you have to like, oh, wake up and pee in the middle of the night, drink it a little earlier in the evening.
Yeah.
Things like that. But yeah, I second the alcohol thing wholeheartedly, because we get in these habits, and I feel like in the mom world, it's really touted. It's like we joke about it and all that.
Yeah.
But I will, especially through all the detoxification and work that I've had to do for my health, like that is something I'm really choosy when I'm gonna have a glass or two of wine, and it definitely is
Yeah.
not during the week.
No.
And it's
No.
not every weekend.
No.
It's like a rare occasion now. It's just
And you
like
feel so much better, like
you do.
mentally, physically, you feel so much better and clearer. And less, I know you talk about brain fog a lot, like less brain fog. You know what you're doing. It's so clear in your head, and your emotions are like you're more stable. Um,
Yeah.
because anxiety and that like after drinking depression, that's real. Like, and it sucks and it hurts. And by continuously drinking, you're just like perpetuating that, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you wear a like Aura ring or a tracker
I
ever
do.
for your
Yes.
sleep? Okay. So
Yes. I
I
wear
would love
Aura ring.
for you. Okay. Yeah. So I do the Aura ring, and here's what I'll tell you, ladies, with the whole alcohol and sleep. And I measured it with my glucose too, which it actually wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Okay.
Because I was drinking, it was like dry farm wines, right? So it's like very, very little sugar and all of that, and drinking it earlier in the evening with food, all that. But what it does to me that really keeps me from like being choosy is, especially if I drink it a little too late, it keeps my heart rate up.
Oh God.
And
Yeah.
so my heart rate, it'll always say on my Oura ring, like,
Oh
you
yeah.
did not sleep well last night. Your
Yep.
heart rate went down. Like it will be like 3-ish, maybe even 4 a.m. before my heart rate actually goes. It's crazy. My heart
It's
rate stays
crazy.
up, and like literally it's like you feel like you're a little amped up. It's the
And do you wake
craziest
up?
feeling.
Do you
Sometimes
wake
I'm
up?
it's like
Yeah. Okay.
really, yeah. It's yeah, so it's and wine does it more than anything else. Even
Okay.
though like I love wine, but I've heard this from others who start talking through
Yeah.
perimenopause and all that. Like even the better wines, like you got to really be choosy when you're gonna have it. Have it earlier. Have it with food.
Yes. Oh,
But it
absolutely.
is the craziest feeling when it started happening to me. I think because I was detoxing and a lot, which I totally obviously cut it out completely for a long time. But then
Yeah.
when I was like, okay, I want to have a little bit again, and I would just be like, man, there were a couple things that my body must have been going through some stuff, but I was like, I could not fall asleep. My heart, but it
Yep.
doesn't do it that bad anymore, but it does keep my heart rate up overnight. So I'm
Yeah.
never going to get good quality sleep. So if you're doing
Yeah.
it every single night, ladies, you are not getting that good quality sleep, which means you are just, your tank is running on E all
Yeah.
the time, and
Yes.
you're never getting to recover. But do you notice the same thing? The heart rate
Oh,
stays up.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I have noticed that, and the basal body temperature, your
Hmm.
temperature, because the Oura Ring tracks temperature.
Yes, it does.
And so temperature, speaking of biomarkers, like that we were talking about earlier, your basal body temperature is a biomarker. So if you're looking to conceive and you're tracking that and you're drinking, right, it's going to totally mess up your results, your tracking results, what you're seeing. Because if you're drinking, your body temperature will likely be elevated along with your heart rate. And then and especially if you drink a couple nights in a row, let's say it's Friday, Saturday, some people drink Sundays because Sunday fun day is a thing. I don't know. And you're ovulate like or you're not ovulating, you may think that you are because your body temperature has been elevated for a couple days in a row. And that may not be the case. And so then you go and have intercourse, you don't get pregnant, you wonder why. Oh, I thought my body temperature was raised enough and stayed, risen. No, that's not the case. So
I'm glad
it does. Alcohol. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I love that the Oura Ring. I highly recommend it, ladies, too, if you want to track and get it, just to even help you get in better sleep habits. I love it because it doesn't run EMF all the time. I'm not a fan of having tracker on my body that is all the time. It stores 24 hours of information, and then you can sync it with your phone and dump it in.
Yep.
It is very eye-opening to just really give some feedback on how your body responds to things, and it can change, right? It can improve and all that, but yeah, it is very interesting and eye-opening to get that feedback.
It is. And it also tracks how your body is recovering, which I find fascinating. So, okay, you have an intense workout because ovulatory phase, great time to have an intense workout. How does your body recover from that? Or going back to alcohol, did you drink that night that you had an intense workout? And your body may not have recovered, so it's everything is all connected. And I highly also recommend the Oura Ring. It's so cool to track your recovery and all of it.
Yeah, it's great. No, I'm glad you brought this up because I think it's really, really important to just really, look at everything. And again, ladies, it's not about doing everything at once. It's picking one thing and slowly implementing it. And then when you're ready to rip off the Band-Aid with something else, go for it. But it can absolutely change your life because it can change your health.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
We have to kind of decide sometimes, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want more energy? How bad do you want to feel better? What is that investment going to be for you? And sometimes it's not money. It's just making different decisions and committing to it, even if it's hard, but know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And, it's, I don't know, I've been blown away, and I know you have too, what we really are capable of. And it's an evolving always journey, right? It's like, we never come to the end. It's just continuing to improve and keep track of things. But okay, I did want to ask you about, you did talk about testing. Are you doing the Dutch tests? Is that what you're mainly doing?
Test.
Okay.
Yes.
Just want to double check. Okay.
Absolutely. Blood, all of them are great, right? They're all great. Blood, it's only a snapshot in time. You're only getting one piece of the puzzle. Whereas the Dutch test, it's over time. Dried urine test for comprehensive hormones. That's what it stands for. And then on top of that, you get to see, because the blood test, you can't see how you're metabolizing your hormones, and what those metabolites are doing. With the Dutch test, you absolutely can. And I think that is where the magic is. How is your body functioning? And I love it. Love the Dutch test.
I love the Dutch test. I think we get so much more information from it than just understanding what are the levels of your hormones. Because you can see pathways and stuff, which can really give you insight as to which foods you should be eating more of, eating less of, some supplement support in there to help you while things are rebalancing. It's really amazing. It's really cool to do them, every so often, whether it's every year or whatever, just to track and to see. So I'm totally on board with you there. Okay. I know we've been chatting for a long time. Okay. I have one question I want you to talk about, right? Because you are a Nocta Fitness pre-postnatal exercise specialist. You've done my, taking my pre-postnatal instructor course, which I love. And I know you've embraced it and really added it in to everything you do. So I don't know if there's one thing kind of with that you've really embraced and run with it and incorporating it all of your women's health that you teach.
It is such an important, I am so glad that I did it. It opened so many doors. Not only, with my business, but personally as well. And connecting with exactly like-minded people like you and the Nocta Fitness team. Speaking business wise, it goes hand in hand with everything that I do. Because there are women who suffer from back pain, everything that you talk about, back pain, neck pain, hip pain, urinary incontinence, like all of it. And to be able to offer that to people, to be able to offer a solution and a path for people to take and be able to train people and women um, has been huge. It has been so rewarding because I get people of all age, women of all ages who, let's say, incontinence is a big one, even before babies, and they're like, I definitely pee my pants a little, and I haven't even had babies yet, Alex. Like, what do I do? I'm like, oh well, you got to train with me. Like, here we go. We need to fix this. And then women who have had babies, and then we get on topics of nutrition and hormones and cycles and all of this, and it's because it's so connected. Yeah, I love that you believe that too. So all of it, I'm so glad that I did it.
Well, I'm so glad that our paths cross. I love the work that you're doing. It's definitely needed. It's been absolutely incredible. So Alex, I appreciate you so much. So can you just share with everyone where they can reach out to you, where they can find out more about, you, and if they have questions or anything?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Erica. So you can find me on Instagram at Moon Wellness Center, and you can find me on Facebook. I have a private group for ladies only. It is also called Moon Wellness Center. And you can find me on my website and email me through moonwellnesscenter.com.
Well, awesome. Thank you again, Alex, for everything. And,
Cool.
this has been a great conversation. I know we could keep talking for,
Yeah.
longer. So I'll have to have you back on one of these days.
All right. Cool. Thank you so much, Erica. You're the best.